All right, welcome everybody to Finance444. You have made it to the final week, final installment of this mod. And good news is, as far as this week is concerned, there's a little bit different course load. We do have a discussion board. So a lot of courses don't have a discussion board in the final week. This course does, so keep that in mind. You do have a discussion board. There is a main post. There are peer responses, just like we normally have. You do have a final test, but you do not have an assignment. So one less thing to be worried about this week. So no assignment. You've got your daily checkpoints. You've got a discussion board. You've got the final exam, and no assignment. You do also have a short career integration, what they call a quiz, but it's just giving some basic feedback, positive feedback, constructive feedback on the course. It's worth 15 points, so it's worth doing, because it's not difficult. There's no right or wrong answers. If you answer the questions, you'll get full credit. The more thoughtful you are is more helpful. However, you don't have to worry about being over the top or spending a lot of time on it in order to get the 15 points. Okay? All right, so as far as the discussion board, pretty straightforward. We're just going to ask you for some feedback on what types of instruments or planning tools you would use for yourself at this point. Now, that can change, and people change their minds over time, and they try different things, and they decide that they don't like certain things and like other things and prefer other things and find out about other things. So just don't get caught up in making sure there's one right answer. But after you've read through Chapter 14, the material in Chapter 14, and maybe reviewed this session, come to your own conclusions on the types of instruments that might be best for you. So we're going to talk about annuities. We're going to talk about retirement plans like IRAs, and we've talked about mutual funds and ETFs. We've talked about different regular savings type strategies like CDs and savings accounts and money markets. There are a lot of different opportunities: gold, silver, rental property, business interest. There's all kinds of different things that you could do to save or invest for the future. And again, there's no right or wrong answer for a discussion board. We just want your perspective, your opinion, and we want it to be thoughtful and something that you've worked on. That's the point, right? To kind of formulate some opinions so that we can grow from the course. So that's this week's discussion board. All grades to this point, everything that's been turned in on time to this point has been graded. So whatever your score is at this point, 3/4 of the way through the class, that's what you have. That's what you've earned. If you find yourself behind at this point, I just strongly encourage you to go back through, read carefully the instructions, resubmit, re-edit, do whatever you need to do to complete the bulk of the coursework so that you can pass the class. For those of you who find yourself significantly behind, just map out this week, plan it out, plan and set aside time every day, even if it's a small amount, to make sure and get caught up. Get as much of your work in as that you possibly can so that you can pass, as I mentioned, the class. I don't want anybody to be registered for a class like this and not pass. The assignments were not difficult. They were short answer questions primarily. The discussion board's pretty straightforward. The assessments were all short, 10, 15, 20 questions. This week's finals, only 25 questions. It's not a difficult class. The material's been straightforward. And so I don't think there's any excuse for anybody not to put in some time and get to a point where they can pass the class. Having said that, if you find yourself significantly behind, it might take significant effort this week, which is how it should be if you haven't done anything to this point or done very little. So if you find yourself caught or confused by instructions or what you should do to make sure that you're going to be passing this class, start with the work, obviously. Get as much work in as you possibly can, but be in touch with me early in this week if you find yourself in a position where you feel like you might give up or don't know how to proceed to get it all done. I can always give you some direction and encouragement, because I think up until Saturday at 11 o'clock, there's no reason, no matter how far along you are in the course, to give up or to stop efforting, and trying to at least pass the class, right? There's no reason to give up on it at any point. So anyway, if you find yourself stuck, let me know. All right. So tonight we're going to cover Chapter 14 after we give a little bit of feedback about, some of the last week's material, some of the last week's course material. And we've just got the one chapter, Chapter 14, and then we need to spend a little bit of time on the 25-question multiple choice final exam that is comprehensive. It's not only Chapter 14, it's from all the chapters. So you'll need to go back through, and if you really want to do well on the test, I would review them. I wouldn't read word for word all of the chapters that we've covered, but I would look through the notes that you have, if you've taken notes from the sessions on previous tests, because most of the test material does come from previous tests if it's comprehensive. And I would be careful that I've taken some notes tonight on the 25 topics that will be tested on, so that I can then be, again, purposeful in the way that I review the content, because there's a lot of content that we've covered in this short 4-week mod. And so it makes sense, at least it makes sense to me, to have the topics listed so that I can go back through and just make sure I know those topics, so that I'm not surprised by anything on the test, and so that I can get through it in the time frame allotted. I won't be stressful. Okay? All right. So if any of you have any questions on that as you review this, let me know. But once again, the schedule or agenda for tonight is to cover a few things from last week, cover Chapter 14 pretty in-depth, and then spend the last little bit tonight on an exam, on the final exam. Okay? All right, so as far as the assignment from last week, and I mentioned this, and we went over, how to get the information needed on Merck. The data was provided, the information was provided, it was really straightforward. I hope nobody spent more than 30, 45 minutes on that assignment. It's a very straightforward assignment. It's just trying to teach you some concepts, some different things you can find when you're looking at up a company stock. Information from pricing, over the last year, to market capitalization, to the PE, price over earnings ratio. Those are all good things to understand, especially if you're looking at companies and trying to figure out what companies to invest in, or what companies you're already invested in. Or maybe it's what company you work for, if you work for a publicly traded company and just want to find out more about your company and their stock. So anyway, I thought it was a really straightforward assignment, pretty simple assignment, but if you have any questions or concerns on it, let me know. If you find yourself stuck on it, first review last week when we went over it, and then get in touch with me right away if you're still not clear on how to accomplish it. Had some very good discussion posts last week. I appreciate it. So thank you for those thoughtful comments, posts, and responses to last week. I've still got a handful of you, 3 or 4 of you that are finding yourselves at this point fairly behind in the course. And again, not a reason to give up at this point if you are really behind at this point. You've still got plenty of time this week. Just map out your time, make sure and commit to some different time periods so that you can get it done, get what you need done in order to pass. All right, so Chapter 14 talks about planning for retirement. We've talked about different products that we use to plan for retirement. We've talked about different ways that we look at retirement, like things like, tax planning are related, because the better we do from a standpoint of tax planning, sometimes the better we are prepared for retirement. And especially in retirement, it's significant. Tax planning is significant. So when we look at retirement, we've got some different goals, but basically the point of retirement planning is that we need to come up with some kind of objective that we're trying to get to. And so then we can back into, from that big picture objective, we can back into our day-to-day goals and things that we need to accomplish day-to-day, month-to-month in order to get to that goal. So what does that mean? Well, we come up with the age that we would like to retire. We come up with how much we're going to need to retire on. And that's taking into perspective any pensions and Social Security or inheritances that we might have. It's taking into perspective what we think we might have from a debt planning standpoint, the difference between having a mortgage and no debt at all when we get to retirement, and then having lots of different debts like cars and homes at that point that we pay on each month is substantial. I have people that can retire and they have $30,000 or $40,000 a year between their pension, a small pension, a 401k, and maybe Social Security, and they live and do whatever they want to do. They travel, they have their time, they can do what they want. Then I have different clients that are going to have $100,000, $150,000 in retirement. That's still not enough because they're paying a significant mortgage payment. They have a significant lifestyle, and they maybe have 2 or 3 different car payments. And so the difference of debt when you get to retirement can be substantial. So a goal in debt reduction or debt payoff or debt elimination, and then a goal in a positive number once you've determined how much you will need to live on and live comfortably on. What is your goal to live on and at what age? So when you have that number and the age, then you can just plug it into calculator. Lots of different calculators that are out there, making an assumption on how much you'll grow your resources by over that time. And you'll come up with the number that you need to save, either on an annualized basis or a monthly basis, to get to that goal. Now, there's a couple things that might happen. It might tell you that you need to have a savings goal that's just completely unrealistic, right? So if you told it that you wanted to retire at age 45 and you wanted to have $1 million every year, there's a good chance that you will have to save more than what you can save. But if your goal was to retire at 65 or 70, and you would like $40,000 or $50,000 a year in income from your investments, then it might be a number that is doable, depending on your age. Now, if you haven't done any kind of retirement planning and don't have any kind of retirement plan put together or any savings program, and you're in your 40s, 50s, or 60s, no matter what number you put in and no matter what age you retire at, it might be a discouraging thing. It might be a reality check that, look, I've got to make substantial progress over the upcoming 10, 15, 20 years in order to get to some kind of good lifestyle, a lifestyle that I look forward to for retirement. And so I would encourage you, if you're in a situation like that, don't get discouraged. Get as much as you possibly can saved away or invested for the future. Look maybe at goals like working a little bit longer, or having a little bit lower income goal, or being laser focused on paying down debt, right? Debt is an area that if you've got 10 or 15 years left, you've still got plenty of runway to pay off a substantial amount of your debt, or even eliminate all of your debt. And again, the difference between having debt and not in retirement sometimes is the difference between living very comfortably and not living very comfortably. Okay? So biggest pitfalls when it comes to retirement planning: starting too late, putting away too little, and investing too conservatively. Now, starting too late might just be a function of life, right? Some of us, we start out in a good track. We have a great career. We start a family. We don't save a whole lot, and then divorce or health issues or a move or a job loss, something like that comes up, or a combination of all of those things. And all of a sudden we find ourselves in our 40s or 50s and we haven't made as much progress as we had hoped. That you're not alone. That's fairly common. What needs to happen, though, is we've got to, as I mentioned, be very, very focused from that point on to make some substantial progress, both from a saving standpoint and a debt reduction standpoint. Putting away too little is a worse excuse, right? It's one of these situations where we just choose to live on more of our money, or maybe we live beyond our means and don't live within our means and pay ourselves like we should. And it's not necessarily because we, had a divorce or had, significant medical bills or something like that, or a business failure or something like that. It's just because we chose to live more extravagantly, and we're not going to be able to have what Dave Ramsey refers to as the ability to live like others can't, because we choose to live like others won't. So if we'll choose to live like others won't, just being more frugal, living within our means during the saving years, then we can live like others can't later, not because we made more money, not because we were more wealthy, but just because we were more disciplined earlier and had the opportunity for our money to grow and compound and give us, liberate us when we get down the road. So compounding interest magnifies these pitfalls substantially. So the fact that there's a time value of money, and that when you get a return, it compounds on itself, enhances your ability to save. The earlier you start, the more you put away, and the more aggressive you are, within reason, right? Being diversified, but the more aggressive you are. And then, of course, there's invest too conservatively, and this is a mistake that a lot of people make because they're scared of the market, they're scared of different investments, primarily because they don't understand them and they don't want to understand them. But when you invest too conservatively, let me just give you an illustration of how this works. If I put $10,000 in a savings account right now, getting 0.3%, which is the national average for a savings account, it will take me 250 years to double my money. Okay, so about 2.5 lifetimes to double my money. Basically, you're not going to double your money in your lifetime. Even if I got a conservative 3% return by just being very, very conservative, maybe in bonds or something like an annuity, just something guaranteed but very conservative, that would reduce it to 25 years, right, before I double my money. And then if I were to be able to get the 9% return that the stock market has averaged over the past 80 years, every 10 years, if I were to get that 9% return, it would only take me about 8 years to double my money. So 8 years in the stock market, 25 years in a conservative bond account getting 3%, or 250 years in a savings account. The difference between being too conservative and even taking moderate risk is substantial when it comes to compounding interest over time. Now, you have to be aware, if you're going to take moderate risk or more, that your account will fluctuate. Your account returns won't be predictable year to year. They'll fluctuate up and down. Some years you'll be ecstatic, like this last year where the stock market's up over 20% after Trump got elected for the past 12 months. Or you might have a situation like 2008 where the stock market goes down about 39% that one year. So you lose almost half your value in 1 year. But if you stay consistent and you give it time and don't worry about timing, so you give it enough time, you have a situation where, like I say, for 80 years, the market's averaged about a 9% return on average per year over that. If you dice up that 80 years over 10-year periods of time, it averaged about 9% a year, which means that you double about every 8 years. Okay, so there is a reason, even though it drives us crazy sometimes because the market goes up and down and it feels kind of scary at times. If we'll be consistent with it and not worry about timing as much as worrying about time and the amount of time we're willing to commit to it. So if I've got 20 years till I retire, I've just got to commit to that time period to be consistent with the market, and the market will do okay for me. If I am not committed to it and I sell every time things get ugly, or I sell every time the market goes down, then I'll be in a situation where I'll see all my losses and I'll never ever do well, with that investing. Okay? So how do I estimate my income needs for retirement? Well, first of all, I have to determine, what that is, how much it is that I want to have. So then I determine how much I already have based on what I've been doing and things like Social Security and pensions and other retirement plans that I might have. And then I get laser focused on trying to fund the difference between those. So let's say I want to retire at 65 and I want to have $60,000 a year. I figure if I have all my debt paid off and have $60,000 a year, I can travel and do what I want. So I calculated out, and at 65, if I were to take Social Security a year early, because that would be a little bit early. Social Security doesn't usually start till 66 or 67, but let's say I start at 65, I just choose to do that, and let's say it's going to be $2,000 a month. The difference that I'm not going to have at 65 between my goal and what Social Security is going to pay is about $3,000 per month, or about $36,000 per year. So what I got to do is get laser focused on trying to get enough money that can create $36,000 a year for the rest of my life starting at age 65. And there are a lot of calculators out there that make that very easy. I don't have to program, my own, formula. I don't have to plug in time value of money into Excel. There are lots of calculators out there. Almost every single financial planning site, every single financial site, every single financial company has different calculators that help us determine time value of money and how much money we'd have to have if we're trying to get to a specific goal. Okay, so then I get focused on funding the shortfall. So here's an example of the sources of income. Of course, this data is a little bit old, but from 76 to 2008, Social Security, you can see, is about a third of what people, well, even more. It's about 40% of what people need for retirement. Then they have asset income, like rental property, for example, would be asset income. Pensions, you can see that pensions have stayed, kind of in about that 12% range, 10% range for a long time. They have earnings, different investment earnings, and perhaps what this is actually talking about is actually work earnings. Okay, so work earnings that are over age 65, a lot of people are working. You can see that's expanded out from 1990 to 2008. More people are getting more of what they earn in retirement from actual earnings. They're going back to work, or they have some kind of work income that they're getting. Okay, interesting chart. I think it's kind of fun to look at those different lines and see where money's coming from. A lot of people, when I do financial planning with them, they're surprised to learn that that a spouse who has never worked is going to get half of their Social Security. So let's say you're married and your husband doesn't work, he's a stay-at-home dad, and you're the breadwinner, and you've worked for 40 years until age 66 and a half for full retirement, and your husband never worked a day in his life as far as a career, but he's been busy working in the home and trying to raise children. Obviously, this is not the common situation. The common situation, at least historically, was the other way around. But it's changing, right? It doesn't matter who the breadwinner is. It's the same either way as far as Social Security is concerned. The primary breadwinner qualifies for Social Security, obviously, through their own income. The non-primary breadwinner, if they never worked a day in their life, is still able to collect half of what the primary breadwinner Social Security is just because they're married. Okay? So it's a pretty significant benefit from Social Security, even for people who don't have a career. If they work in the home, or if they never, worked outside of the home, or if they were self-employed and didn't record much in terms of Social Security income, or let's say they were a teacher or an aide or something like that and didn't have a high level of income, they still have the ability to collect up to half of their spouse's income. Not on top of theirs, but in lieu of their own earned Social Security. So so Social Security really can become a significant part, especially if you've got two Social Security payments coming to your household between you and a spouse. That can end up being a substantial part of your financial planning and future income planning. So talking about Social Security, benefits are divided between your employer and you as the employee, unless you're self-employed, and then you pay both. Normal retirement age is 67 if you were born after 1960. That's what we talked about before. It's not really 65 anymore. 65, though, is when Medicare kicks in, which is really important because health insurance is so expensive. Medicare kicks in at 65, but full Social Security doesn't kick in until 67. Now, you're able to take Social Security as early as age 62, but if you're still working, there's some penalties associated with working and making significant income, and it's not even significant, but anything over about $30,000, if you're getting Social Security and took it early, they're going to penalize your Social Security. So just keep that in mind. If you're thinking about taking Social Security early, but you're still working, there's a chance that they might take away some of your Social Security for having income and taking it. After age 67, or whenever your full retirement age is for Social Security, they can no longer do that. Having said that, just be aware of the fact that up to 85% of your Social Security payment is taxable as income. So we'd like to think we take all of Social Security and we don't have to pay any taxes on it because it was a tax. Social Security is a tax. It's a tax program, but the government has found a way to tax a tax. So when we collect Social Security, we'll pay taxes on up to 85% of our Social Security. Doesn't mean we pay an 85% rate. Just means that of, let's say, $10,000 of Social Security a year, we pay taxes on $8,500. So if our tax rate is 15%, we'll pay 15% tax rate on $8,500 per year because that's 85% of the $10,000 we received. To be fully qualified for Social Security, we've got to have at least 40 quarters or 10 years worth of work throughout our life. And early retirement, always means lower benefits. So if I start benefits at age 62, my benefit will be substantially lower than if I would have waited till age 67 for my full retirement benefit. In fact, every year I wait from age 62 on, I get 8% more, or approximately just under 8% more per year guaranteed for the rest of my life. And that increase happens for every year I wait up until age 70. After age 70, it no longer increases, and there's no reason to defer Social Security beyond 70 whatsoever. So if you know somebody that's saying, well, I'm going to keep deferring, I'm not going to take my Social Security, I'm still working, I don't want to take Social Security, and they're in their 70s, they're just giving up free money. Okay? There's absolutely no reason, unless they just have something fundamentally, against taking Social Security, but there's no reason, no help, no benefit. It's just money lost if we don't take Social Security at least by 70. And depending on how old you think you will live, it might make sense to take Social Security early. For example, age 84 is the magic number. If you live to age 84 or think you might going to live to age 84 based on your genetics, your parents' genetics, and your health, if you live beyond 84, it would have been better to wait till closer to 70 to take Social Security. But if you think, based on your genetics and your health, or maybe your health history, that you will not make it to 84, then it might make sense to consider taking Social Security early. Because if you pass away before 84, then it probably makes sense. It would have made sense in hindsight, which none of us know for sure. But some of us, we have genetics where our parents died at earlier ages and we're in bad health, then we probably should take Social Security early. Social Security does us no good if we die. So if I pass away at age 70 and I haven't taken any Social Security yet, I'm not going to get Social Security because there's no beneficiary on Social Security. Once I'm gone, nobody gets my Social Security. The only exception to that is a spouse. When there's two people getting Social Security payments in retirement, let's say I was the primary breadwinner and then there's my spouse, if I pass away, she gets the larger of the two payments, either hers that she qualified for or mine. She does not get both. Okay? So you get the larger of the two, which, I talked about how for a lot of people it's a surprise to the positive side how much they're going to get from Social Security and the fact that they might get a spousal benefit even for a spouse that maybe didn't work. But the flip side is, the surprise on the other end is, there are a lot of elderly couples that when one of them passes and Social Security goes away for one of them, the smaller of the two, like we talked about, that is a substantial lifestyle change financially for the remaining spouse, the widow or widower at that point. Most elderly couples are using the Social Security payments they're receiving. So if one of those were to go away, even if it is the smaller of the two, that's a lifestyle adjustment that's in order at that point. And sometimes a very difficult one if they're barely getting by on two, Social Security payments. It's unlikely that they're going to be able to get by very well on one, even if it is the larger of the two, as I mentioned. There's a lot of aspects to Social Security and Social Security benefits. There's survivor benefits for people who have lost a spouse. They get to start survivor benefits a little bit earlier, potentially. But that's all I really want to cover as far as Social Security. Let's talk a little bit about pension plans and retirement programs. Pension plans are becoming less and less common. Retirement programs that have to do with what you contribute, like 401k plans, are becoming more and more popular. So there are employer-sponsored plans, and then there are self-directed retirement plans like IRAs, where they're individually opened and they're individually directed. So employer-sponsored programs have different rules, right? There's different amounts of people that have to participate. There's vesting schedules potentially, which all vesting means is that there might be a timeline on how long you have to wait before the money that they've given you as the profit share component of a 401k is actually your money to take with you. So for an example, if I work for a place for 2 years, let's say I work at a retailer, they match dollar for dollar up to 3% on the money that I put into my 401k, and let's say I work for 2 years and then quit. Their vesting program might dictate that most of the money that they actually gave me in a profit share match is not mine because I didn't work there long enough. A lot of times a vesting schedule will be 5 years even. And basically every year you get 20% of their profit share component vested. Now the money that you put in is always 100% vested, but the money that the employer puts in for you may have a timetable before it's actually yours, and that's what's referred to as a vesting schedule. And it can be a little bit different based on the rules of whichever company you work for that they've come up with. Okay? So there are different rules associated with each retirement plan based on when retirement age is. A lot of pensions, retirement age is 65. A lot of other plans, don't dictate a specific retirement age. They just, it's whenever you decide to retire, but most of them force you to retire after age 59 and a half as far as when you can start taking distributions from their plan. There are retirement plans where you contribute to them, and there are also retirement plans, and many pensions are this way, but where you never contribute a dime. The company is putting all the money into the plan. The pensions of yesteryear for our parents and grandparents, where they worked for one company their entire lives and they had a pension that paid them a very nice income throughout retirement, those pensions are almost all gone, but those pensions didn't require our parents and grandparents to put any money in. It was all funded by the employer. Okay. two different main categories of retirement plans. There's defined contribution and defined benefit. The basic difference is when I refer to what's called a pension plan, I'm usually referring to what is called a defined benefit plan. And that is the company is defining what your benefit's going to be based on how long you work for the company and how much money you make while you're there. So what it'll be is it'll be some kind of factor of that. So for example, school districts and government entities a lot of times will have a pension that says for every year you work, you have a 2% of your average salary benefit. So it sounds kind of complicated, but it's really not that complicated. You take your average salary, you times it by 2%, and that's the benefit that you'll receive based on every year of employment. So if I work 30 years for the school district, I might get up to 60% of my average salary throughout retirement for the rest of my life. Okay? So it can be a very good pension. Pensions can be great as far as their ability to pay you income for life. And the other nice thing about it that a lot of people like on defined benefit plans is the company or the government entity is managing the portfolio. You are not. So it takes the risk and the bad choices and decision making of some of us off of our shoulders and places it squarely on them. That's actually one of the reasons why defined benefit plans and pension plans are going out, why they're so uncommon now, why it's so uncommon to have a pension plan, because a lot of companies had pension plans before, and what they found was they weren't very good at managing money. They're good at being a company, they're good at growing, their entity, but they're not very good at managing money, and so many of them made significant mistakes in their projections as far as these pension plans and the funding was concerned, and it turned out to have significant shortfalls in their planning that ends up taking profitability away from those companies. So a lot of those companies have switched now from pensions where the responsibility of investment is on the company and have now switched them to where the responsibility of the investment is on the individual, you and I as employees. And those plans are 401k plans primarily, but there's a whole group of plans called defined contribution plans. And defined contribution plans are much more common nowadays than defined benefit plans. So there's all kinds of other plans that might be out there, different profit share plans, TSP or thrift and savings plans, and salary reduction plans like deferred salary plans, deferred comp plans, excuse me. And those plans can complement the different retirement plans you have and help you to get even more money into your retirement planning potentially. So it makes sense especially if you're working for a big company or, I'd say medium to large companies many times will have different plans in addition to their traditional 401k or their traditional, retirement plan. If you're self-employed, not working for somebody, you have significant options. You actually have more options than somebody who works for somebody else. And the idea there is that people who are self-employed tend to put a lot of their resources and discretionary money back into their business. And so because of that, the government and the IRS have come up with some different plan types and rules that are exclusive to somebody who's self-employed. So if I'm self-employed, I can do various KEO plans, SEP plans, and different single 401k, SEP IRAs, different things where I can get substantially more money into a retirement plan in a year than the average W-2 employee out there. And the reason is because the government assumes that at some point I'm going to have to play catch up because I was putting all my discretionary assets back into my business instead of saving them like somebody who works for somebody else and doesn't have to make that commitment or investment. Okay? So if you're self-employed and feeling sorry for yourself because you don't have a retirement plan or 401k like your neighbors and friends, family members that have those kinds of jobs, I would tell you that you have substantial opportunities and significant opportunities that you could put money in and fund your retirement if you chose to. Different kinds of IRAs are available to you. Both employees and self-employed folks have opportunities to do IRAs. So there's basically two main categories. This makes it look like there's three. Non-deductible after-tax IRAs are basically IRAs where you don't get any tax benefits. So I don't, in my 15 years and as an investment advisor and someone who helps people with IRAs, very, very rarely do I ever come across non-deductible IRAs. The point of IRAs is to get tax benefits. So you've got two main categories of IRA. One is the traditional tax-deductible IRA, that top one, and one is the Roth IRA. You've probably heard of the Roth. It's gotten a lot of positive press and publicity. A Roth IRA is a place that you don't get an upfront deduction when you put your money in, but you grow your money tax-deferred, so you don't have to pay taxes along the way as it grows. And when you get to retirement, and this is the most important part, all that growth never is taxed, so it can come out 100% tax-free when you get to retirement. So back to our example of doubling your money every 8 or 9 years based on a 9% average rate of return. If you double your money over the next 30 years 3 times, right? Conservative basis, if you've got a 30-year time horizon, more of your money in your account is actually interest than it is your original basis, your original money that you put in. And if you're in a Roth IRA, none of it would be taxable. If you're in a regular IRA, you got an upfront deduction on that original contribution that you made, and then all of it becomes taxable when you get to retirement, okay, because it was never taxed. A Roth IRA is one of the rare places where you just are never ever taxed. Not only is it deferred, but it's just not taxed at all, the growth on your investment, okay? So Roth IRAs can be a great tool for retirement planning. Annuities are a segment that a lot of retirees will use, a segment of products that a lot of retirees will use. The biggest draw to annuities is that they are a guarantee that someone will not outlive the income stream that they create. So how does it work? Well, large life insurance companies underwrite annuities because they're exactly the opposite from life insurance from an actuarial perspective. What do I mean by that? I mean, big life insurance companies are insuring people from living too short. The whole point of buying life insurance, in most cases, and I realize that there are exceptions, but the point of life insurance is to buy peace of mind and to protect us from living too short. Okay, while I still have liabilities and family at home, I want to make sure that they would be taken care of if anything happens to me if I die prematurely, right? Annuities, their objective is exactly the opposite. People get concerned when it comes to annuities that they will outlive their money, right? So I get to retirement, I've got $1 million in the bank, which sounds great, but if I'm living off $100,000 per year, I'm going to outlive my money, right? 10 years later, I'm not going to have any money left, and that makes people really nervous to run out of money. What if they are still in retirement, they're still trying to enjoy their retirement, and they run out of money? Well, Social Security is not going to run out unless the government goes bankrupt. Pensions don't run out, but annuities also don't run out. It's a life insurance company basically saying, we're going to guarantee you an income stream for the rest of your life, and we don't care how long you live. So if you live to 110, we're going to be paying it out every year until you're 110. However, if you only live till 85, we're only going to pay till 85. Okay? So it's kind of a two-edged thing. You might not get as much money back as you should if you live short. But the more important issue, and the reason that people do annuities and like pensions, is because it's guaranteeing them an income stream for life no matter how they live, and it guarantees them not to outlive their income and run out. So that's the main advantage of annuities, is it basically creates a pension plan. So before retirement, we're putting money into an annuity. That's the accumulation period. After retirement, it's the distribution phase. Different kinds of annuities. So some annuities you're going to pay all at once. You're going to put the premium in all at once. Other annuities you're going to pay into over time. Some annuities are fixed accounts. They just have a guaranteed interest rate. And other annuities have a variable component to them. If the market goes up, you go up. If the market goes down, you go down. Okay? Different kinds of annuities. This charts it out graphically, kind of makes it a little more straightforward like that. Different ways that you can take annuities, lots of different distribution strategies. And that's basically all I wanted to cover on annuities. Annuities are, as a general rule, more expensive than other types of investments, and as a general rule are less flexible than other kinds of investments. But as a general rule, they're sold significantly by agents who are making commissions because they pay a very large commission to the folks who sell them. So if you feel like you're getting invited to a lot of steak dinners, if you're in your 40s or 50s, you'll probably get a lot of postcards that say, hey, join us for an exciting opportunity to learn about how to never run out of money in retirement. That is a group that's going to try to sell you an annuity. If you can go to a seminar like that and say no to everything, it's a free steak dinner, so I don't have any problem with that. But just know that annuities, as a general rule, are more expensive and less flexible. If you know that going in and still choose to do an annuity because you want lifelong income and guarantees associated with an annuity, then great. That's perfect. But do not get oversold by somebody who is trying to make a commission and not telling you about the costs and inflexibility of the contract they're trying to sell. Okay? That's the only reason I bring that up. All right. So we need to spend the last few minutes tonight on... Wow, we've got quite a bit of time left, though. We need to spend the last few minutes on the test. So let me pull this up. Give me just a second. I'm going to pull up what the topics are for the test. Be just a second. I'll pull it up in an attachment. So all right, as I mentioned before, there are multiple choice questions. There are, I think, 25 total, but it's still loading the page. So 1 second, I'll verify that. But all multiple choice. As I mentioned before, the test questions are comprehensive, so you're going to see material from all the different chapters that we've been through and probably some repeat questions from previous tests. I've just verified there are 25 questions, and so pretty straightforward, though. Questions shouldn't be very tricky, but let me give you some topics to look for as you study and prepare for the final exam. Now, do keep in mind that the final exam is worth about 3 times what the other exams have been worth, so take it seriously because it's worth quite a bit of your grade. A letter grade and a half of your overall score is based on this one test. Okay, so give yourself plenty of time, prepare, study, take a few notes, hopefully from this session so that you feel comfortable and do a good job. All right, number 1 on the test. For number 1 on the test, you want to understand PE ratio, which is price over earnings ratio. It's a ratio that was on the assignment last week for Merck. And basically what we want to know is, what does the PE ratio mean? If we understand what the PE ratio means, we're going to understand what it means to have a high PE ratio or what it means to have a low PE ratio. And if investors like a stock, if they really like a stock, and they're buying a lot of that stock, will that dictate that the PE is high, or will that dictate that the PE is low? So if you understand that, you'll get number 1 right on the test and you'll be off to a good start. Number 2 on the test is asking a question, and I don't know that we ever did examples of this, so you're going to have to look back to the book on financials, the financials of stocks, the financials of companies. When we talk about book value of a company, there's a simple formula. It involves knowing about 4 different things is all. But there's a simple formula that I would write down before I get to the test on how to calculate book value. Okay? Book value. How do you calculate book value? It's a short math problem. You'd be able to do the math just on the paper. You wouldn't even need a calculator, but you can use, obviously, your computer calculator if you'd like. But you need to know how to plug them in, and so what I would suggest is that you understand and have written down the formula for book value before you get to the test. Number 3 on the test. Number 3 on the test is asking you to demonstrate that you understand the concept of total return. When we talk about a return on a stock, a bond, a mutual fund, we're talking about 2 different components of that return. We're talking about the capital gain or loss, and we're also talking about the income. Okay, stocks have dividends, right? That's their income. Bonds have interest or a coupon. That's their interest. Mutual funds have dividends. That's their income. But then all these products also fluctuate in value, and whether or not they go up and have a capital gain or down and have a capital loss, that's a fluctuation in value that is one component of the two components of total return. So you have fluctuation of value as one component. We call that capital gain or capital loss. And the other component is the income component. So if you're trying to factor or determine or calculate the return for an investment over a 12-month period of time, you take both the change in value plus the income, and that gives you the return for that period. Okay? If you understand that, you'll get number 3 right on the test. Just remember that there are two components to return. One is value change or capital change, capital gain or capital loss, and the other is income. Could be referred to as dividends or coupon. Number 4 on the test asks you about socially responsible funds, which are very common, SRI funds, socially responsible funds. There's a new classification of funds actually that is becoming even more popular that has to do with sustainable investing. But that's here nor there. The test is not asking you for that. They just want to know what socially responsible funds would do, what kinds of things that they would invest in or not invest in. Okay? Pretty straightforward. If you just look through the answers on number 4, it would be pretty obvious what the answer is. But if you want to just look up what socially responsible investing is, I don't think there'll be any surprises in the material other than what you probably already are expecting to see. But nice little refresher might go a long ways before the test. Number 5 on the test, what is your take-home pay? What is your take-home pay? Is that net income or is that gross income? If you understand what it is, then you'll get number 5 right on the test. Number 6 on the test, what does the book define tax planning as? Is tax planning something you do when you file your taxes, or is it something that you do all year round? If you know, then you'll get that one right. See what the book has to say about what tax planning is. Number 7 on the test asks you what is a mutual fund, basically. What does a mutual fund do? And then it gives you some different options. And if you know the advantages and disadvantages basically from the book for mutual funds, you'll get that one right. Okay. Number 8 on the test asks about strategies for saving and what kinds of things would be a good strategy for savings, and then to identify what would be a bad strategy for investing. You don't even need to study anything to get this one right. Read all 4 of the answers and it'll be very obvious which one is not a good idea if you're trying to save for the future, and which ones, the rest will all be good ideas for that. Okay, we've talked about it quite a bit, but this one is pretty obvious as far as number 8 on the test. Number 9 on the test, what is an unlisted security and what exchange does it trade on? So you've got like the New York Stock Exchange, the NASDAQ, the Amex, what are unlisted securities and where do they trade? What exchange do they trade on? Or do they even trade on an exchange? Number 10 on the test just asks you to understand what bear market is. It's a repeat from last week. Remember, we have bear, bull, and neutral markets. Bear markets mean one thing, bull markets mean another, and then finally neutral markets or flat markets just mean that the market's not moving anywhere, right? Number 11 on the test asks you to understand why we have portfolio management. So what does the book say the purpose of portfolio management is? What is the reason we have portfolio management? Number 12 on the test, the book tells you which index is the most followed index when it comes to stocks. So when it comes to stocks, there's lots of different indexes that track how well stocks are doing, but there's one particular index that's been around for a very long time. And if you listen to the radio, even just a regular news channel or station or radio station, it doesn't have to be on finance necessarily, but they will report on this particular exchange, or excuse me, this particular index, okay? And it's the most popular index and widely followed index. So see what the book has to say, which one is the most popular index. Is it the S&P? Is it the Dow? Is it the NASDAQ? Because all 3 of those are reported on a lot, but what is the most followed index according to the book? Number 13 on the test, just need to understand which between bonds and stocks or both have maturity dates and which do not. Okay? Are maturity dates a bond thing or a stock thing or both? Number 14 on the test, understand what the advantages and disadvantages of using margin. Remember we talked about how using margin is using debt. So if you use debt when it comes to your investing, what does that do? What does the book say that it does for your investing, good or bad? Number 15 on the test, know the difference between limit, stop loss, and market orders. Because of the discussion board, I think you'll be fine on that one. You recall that we had a discussion board where that's what we talked about is the different order types. If you understand those different order types for ordering a stock, you'll be in great shape for number 15. Number 16 is the same, difference between market, limit, and stop loss orders. Number 17, you want to understand as a category, what category of stocks would you be trying to invest in if you were focused on income? Pretty straightforward answer. Don't overthink that one. What kinds of stocks would you be interested in if you were trying to focus on income? Okay, there's basically two categories generally of stocks. There are value stocks that are focused on income or income stocks. And then there are growth or high-risk stocks that are more focused on growing and we're focused on the one aspect of return that we talked about earlier that we referred to as capital gain or capital appreciation. They're not as focused on paying dividends or income if they're a growth-focused stock. Okay, so what stocks would you invest in if you were more focused on income? Just be generally aware of what the answer would be to that question, and you'll get that one right on the test. Again, don't overthink some of these questions. The more you think about them, they are just as simple and straightforward as they look. Know about the different fees when it comes to mutual funds. So there's different costs associated with mutual funds. Know what they are, the name of them. There's 2 or 3 different layers of cost on a mutual fund. Just know what they are. Number 19, different types of stocks. Okay. You just understand different categories of stocks generally. So if you're reading in the book about different stocks, you'll have high growth stocks, you'll have value stocks, you'll have blue chip stocks, you'll have emerging market stocks, you'll have international stocks. What are those basically? What's the difference between them? You don't need to know, in great detail, but you do need to know basically the difference between those different stocks. Number 20 on the test, again, difference between market order, limit order, and stop loss orders. So you've got 3 different questions about different order types, and all of you should be in great shape on that one because of the discussion board from, I think it was last week or the week before. Number 21 on the test, difference between bear markets and bull markets again. If you know the difference between those two, you'll get number 21 right on the test. Number 22, you've got primary markets and secondary markets for stocks. Primary markets are where you have initial public offerings or IPOs. Secondary markets are where we buy and sell stocks from each other on an exchange like the New York Stock Exchange. Just understand the basic differences between the primary and secondary market, and you'll get number 22 right on the test. Number 23 right on the test is asking you to understand the difference between regressive, progressive, and flat rate taxes. You'll recall when we had our session about tax, we talked about how the federal income tax is one of those. Okay, it fits squarely into one of those. Don't think about all the proposals from politicians, right? A lot of politicians talk about the flat tax. That is not what our federal income tax is. I'll give you a clue. The federal income tax is either a progressive tax or regressive tax, and a sales tax is the other one. So if you remember our discussion about progressive or regressive taxes, sales tax was one type and federal income tax was the other type. Okay? If you know which one is which, difference between regressive and progressive, and an example of each, you'll get number 23 right on the test. Number 24 on the test is asking us what a capital gain is. What is a capital gain? How do I realize a capital gain? So there's unrealized capital gains and there's realized capital gains. Unrealized capital gains is just when I have a stock or a mutual fund that goes up in value, but I don't sell it, right? That's unrealized, so I don't have to pay taxes on that because I didn't realize it yet. But realized is when I sell it and it's worth more than what I bought it for. Then I've realized a capital gain. And realized capital gains are always taxable. There are very few exceptions. If we buy something for less than we sell it for, we're probably going to have taxes on it. Now, you'll recall that there are short-term capital gains and long-term capital gains. Short-term capital gains means that you sold something for more than what you bought it for in less than 12 months. So I bought a car this month, I sold my car next month for more than what I bought it for. That's a short-term capital gain. I pay my income tax rate for anything that's a short-term capital gain. So whatever my income tax rate is, if it's 28, 30, 35, 40, 39.6 is the highest bracket, but then I have potentially state income taxes on top of that. Whatever that rate is, I'm going to pay on capital gains that were less than 12 months. If I hold something more than 12 months, then I get the long-term capital gains rate, which in most cases is 15%. Some cases is 0, and some cases is 20. So as a general rule, the long-term capital gains rate is lower, and sometimes substantially lower, than the income tax rate, and that's the government trying to motivate us to keep assets longer, okay, and trying to get people to not do things like day trading, where they just try to make money quickly, because if you do that and you do it a lot, you're going to just probably pay half your profits in taxes. Where if you're a longer-term investor and hold something for at least a year or longer, you're going to pay a lot less in tax. Okay, so if you know a little bit about capital gains, you'll get number 24 right on the test. Number 25 on the test speaks to this concept of the difference between tax credits and tax deductions. You'll recall there was a couple slides on it. The book talked about it. Just make sure you're clear before you get to the test for number 25 on the difference between tax credits and tax deductions. One is much more potent than the other. Both are good from a tax planning standpoint, but one is much more potent than the other. And if you understand which is which as far as credits or deductions, how they're treated when it comes to our taxes, you'll get number 25 right on the test. All right, that's it as far as the test. That's all 25 questions. Pretty straightforward. Most of them are very, very simple and easy. And sometimes some of them, even if you hadn't read the material, you'd probably get it right. If you just looked at each one of the answers and just thought, okay, which one of these answers really just makes sense? Now, if you're reading through the test and something just seems too easy, please don't second guess yourself. Please don't make it harder than it is. Most of these questions are very straightforward and very simple. So don't second guess yourself. Don't overthink it. Sometimes that's a trap for us, where we get some answers wrong because we just thought, well, that's too easy. It must be something else. These questions are not meant to trick you. They're very straightforward. They're very simple. So just do the best answer, and you're gonna probably do great on the test. If you get any questions or if you need any clarification as you review this on any of the test question topics, let me know. If you get stuck on anything this week, let me know. But let's finish strong. Let's get caught up in our work. Let's make sure we get everything in so we can pass the class. And I would just wish you the best success in the class and also going forward with your degrees. Have a great night.